Everybody, it's Amy Graham, the Badass Valkyrie, and today is Monday, 4/20, and it has been a heck of a weekend. Thursday, my husband Greg went and laid down and was not feeling well at all, and by Friday morning, we thought, okay, this is it. He's got the plague. So we went in or we called in to the hotline that we have here in Utah, and they sent him in for testing. Thankfully, the testing came back negative. Hopefully it's not a false negative, but there we go. And so Saturday was filled with jubilation and like, okay, great, we're not in total lockdown. But I was still hesitant to leave him because he's been feeling really awful. So I had not been out of the house Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. But yesterday, which is Sunday, the 19th, his leg, he woke up and his right leg was swollen and red and very hot to the touch. But we were like, okay, that's kind of, it wasn't super swollen. So we're like, okay, it just hurt. So we took a look at it. We put some of my, I have a cream for some rash when I get hives due to my allergies. So we put that on there and it seemed to make it a little bit better. And then by last night, it seemed like it was getting better. And this morning he woke up, the leg was swollen, leg was very, very red. Like tomato soup red. And compared to his very white skin, it was like, whoa, okay. His leg was swollen, his foot was swollen, and there looked to be some edema and some ulcers starting to form. So we had a virtual doctor's appointment this morning, and they sent him directly to the ER because they're afraid that it might be a blood clot. Because he's been on his back pretty much the entire time, this whole weekend. So, they don't let people go back with their spouses to the ER. So, I said goodbye to him at the door and gave all the nurses all the information that they needed and came home. I am less than 8 minutes away from the ER. Timed it. But it is a little stressful to not be there, to hear everything, and to know what's going on at any given point in time. And that is some extra stress that I just did not need. But anyway, I wanted to get on and take my mind off of all of that and talk about the focus for this week, which kind of, in a weird roundabout way, kind of goes along with that. And I apologize if you guys hear anything in the background with my phone. I have it on because, again, emergency room, husband, going crazy. But this week's focus is about connection. And out of all of this, one of the things that I realized is not only am I an extreme extrovert, but I need connection. And not just like person to person, I want to be in the same room. It's like I am a touchy-feely person. I like contact. I like touching people. If I'm like listening to you, I'm usually have my hand on your shoulder or something. With my animals, I am usually very conscious of picking them up and holding them and loving on them. And with Greg, one of the things that I love about our relationship is, and it's something that I look forward to every single day, is when he wakes up or when he comes home from work, it's just this big giant bear hug. And that is my favorite part of the day, is getting this big giant, oh my God, I missed you today. And like this huge, just enveloping of love. And I have noticed since I've been home because we don't have a lot of that, as much as we did before, because the cats are always around, the dog is always around, Greg is home. There's not that, oh my God, I missed you kind of thing. And just this feeling of envelopment and closeness. And I was like, that's so weird. But I hadn't noticed it until last night. Greg was like, can you put the ointment on my leg? He goes, it just hurts my back to do it. And I'm like, yeah. And so he laid down on the bed and I was rubbing his leg and he's like, oh, that feels so good. It feels so good just to have you touch me. And I'm like, oh my God. And it just like literally slapped me in the face that because of social distancing and everything else, that even being in the same house, we had gotten away from just touching and hugging and just being close to one another. And when Greg was sick in bed, I mean, just to like comfort him a little bit, I was just snuggling. I mean, we have a big, giant king-size bed. But and usually the animals are in between us. But I was just cuddling him and he was like, oh, it was so funny because, and he'll probably kill me for saying this, but he's like, oh, it feels so good to be the little spoon. And I'm like, okay, that is too funny. But it just reminded me that you get into this mindset of social distancing and staying 6 feet away from people and not touching people. And I'm like, I don't want to, put myself at risk, but he's my husband and we're in the same house. And so I'm like, we can touch each other. We can love on each other. We can just snuggle on the couch. And I'm like, okay. And prior to this whole situation, we would literally make time to snuggle and to just, be with each other because we were always apart because of work. And it just kind of became second nature to be apart because of this whole situation. So that's why I'm kind of bringing this into like this whole focus thing, because I'm like, if I'm doing it, and it was part of our whole thing was to pay attention, to always make sure that we're touching and being together and snuggling. And I'm like, that was a huge part. And it just now occurred to me that for this past month, we have been like keeping our distance. And then when he got sick, it was even more so. He was like, don't kiss me. And I'm like, I'm kissing you. I don't care. I am not kissing you. And so I was just like, oh, wow. And I noticed that my cats have been coming up to me and like, just like plopping down on me like, mama, love me. And I'm just like, I need to make this a focus, because it's like this deep-seated fear inside my head. And I'm like, I'm doing this subconsciously and not even realizing that when I went out yesterday, because we had to go to Costco because we needed orange juice and medication and all this stuff, I was literally like so overwhelmed with like, everybody just stay away from me. Just stay away. And which, in today's reality, it's kind of what you have to do. But I got home after having to go to 4 different places to try to find a thermometer, which, by the way, almost impossible, which I had no idea. We have one, so don't worry, we do have one that works. It was just kind of like wonky, and I'm like, I don't trust this. And so because it's an in the ear one, and I'm like, I think we've had it for years. And I'm like, I think it's time we get a new one and get one that's like the roll across your forehead kind of thing. Not even thinking that it would be hard to find one. Oh yeah. Even on Amazon, mid-May before you can even get one. And I'm like, holy cow, I had no idea. It just never occurred to me because we had one, not something that, you go out and buy. But now I'm like, we will have a second one in this house, no matter what, all the time. Tangent. But I was just, when I got home after being out in the public with my mask and my gloves on the entire time, I got home, unloaded the car because Greg is still sick, and I unloaded everything, put everything in the kitchen. I literally broke down. I was just like bawling because I was like, I am so overwhelmed, and having everything in the house and being, so worried about people touching me or touching things that I shouldn't touch. And I'm like, oh, it got to me a lot. And I'm like, I'm just going to clean my sink because that's the only thing that I can do right now. It was the one thing that gave me peace. I was like, and then after that, I'm like, now I need a shower because I have people all over me. And I'm like, I just felt crazy. Still feel a little crazy. But I think part of that was because I have not had contact. And I never want that extreme again. I do not want to feel like nobody get in my bubble. I mean, I'm already like that a little bit because I'm like, okay, you are too close to me in this line. And it was very funny because like I have my big Chic Sparrow tote, and I use it as a defense mechanism, I think, because I'm like, I put that because usually it's just right under my arm and it just hangs there, and I'm like, fine. Somebody gets too close to me in a line, I'm like drinking that thing down, and it's like gives me like that much space, and I'm like, do not get close to me. I like my personal bubble. But I also like, if I'm listening to somebody, or if I'm like dealing one-on-one with someone that I know and that I know is comfortable with it, it's like I like to have contact. I love hugs. I love just affection and all of that from people I like and know and are okay with. If you're freaky, I don't like that. But see, all of my weirdness is now coming out, and it's because I'm a little verklempt. But I realized that because I had not had connection and not had contact with people, and had even to that point distanced contact with Greg and my pets, I'm like, okay, this is a little bit why you're feeling overwhelmed and why dealing with people, which normally is something that I crave and enjoy, is making you overwhelmed because you are going too far the other way. And I know there's a need for it right now, but I also realize that I need to be very cognizant about the types of connection that I need and how I can adapt that to what I can get here in the house with my animals and with Greg, and make sure that I'm not putting this distance between us unnecessarily. And it's just something that I was doing subconsciously. And so if you're used to that and you are feeling overwhelmed and you don't know why, that may be something to look at. If you are someone who likes getting hugs and is used to physical contact and connection, and you're not getting that, it can cause some issues. I am right here to tell you, because it did not even occur to me that, yes, I always talk about I feed off of the energy of other people and I need that kind of thing, but the physical closeness and the actual physical touching, that kind of thing, I was just like, unknowingly just needing that and craving that. And so it just hit me when Greg was sick, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and it's nothing that neither one of us had even noticed until it was like, oh, that feels so good just to have your hand on me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how horrible a wife am I? And I'm not, and he doesn't feel that way, but those are the thoughts that are going through my head. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And now he is at the hospital in the ER, and I can't even be there. Stress. Weird stress. So try to find some way to connect with those people around you that you are in your house with, or your pets. And if you're not used to that, then that's okay. It's finding a connection with people outside. I can understand how people kind of get shut in and get agoraphobia and all of that, because I'm like, even me. And I'm like, oh, yesterday after all of that, I'm just like, oh my gosh, what's happening to me? That I would have lived for that, a month ago. And now it's freaking me out. And it's just a lot of this stuff that is coming out that none of us are prepared for. We have no idea how to deal with it. And I'm like, weird things happen. Like not touching your husband. And I'm like, okay, I'm making it a point. That is my focus this week, is to make sure that we have connection. That makes sure that I have connection with my animals, and that, I am petting them and loving on them constantly, because that will help me, but it will also help them. And I'm not saying put yourself at risk. Don't go out hugging strangers, because that's no good for nobody. But people in your house, you may not even realize that you're social distancing from them. And, if you're in the house, you're in the house. But just figure out how you connect with other people, and make sure that you're not disconnecting those connections or subconsciously, because of all the social distancing and everything else. So just something to think about, and something to pay attention to. And that's all that, this is just something to focus on and kind of pay attention to. So that's where I'm at. As soon as I know anything, I will post it in the Facebook group. He sent me a text just a few minutes ago saying that they think it might be some sort of an infection. He had cut his foot a few weeks ago, and so that may be part of this. I don't know. They have him on antibiotics, evidently. They're putting him on antibiotics. So we will go from there. So it just sucks not being there. This whole thing sucks. But all we can do is the best that we can do on a day-to-day basis. And while this may have been a little bit of a spun up kind of focus this morning, it's kind of where I'm at. And I'm not sorry for that. Even having connection with people that you normally watch, it's a new day for everybody. And if I was to sit here and pretend that everything is okay, everything's good, no, that is not me. And y'all would know for sure that I was lying through my teeth. So I would much rather let you guys know what I'm going through, and hopefully it helps in some way to recognize certain things. And, if all else, at least it might be a connection for somebody else going, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing. So anyway, I hope you guys are getting some sort of self-care in every week. I know it's hard. I know it's like, as my grandfather used to say, kind of like putting lipstick on a pig, but it does help. And it does take your mind off things. I gave myself a facial and wore my face mask this weekend. Through all of this, it was an hour that I just was like, and had an hour of calm. And I just read and sat on the couch with my face mask, had Heimdall come over and lay on my lap the whole time, and I'm like, I'm okay with this. This is just what I'm going to do. And I let it just be. So find something to take care of you. Go get a hug if you can. Hug your pet. Hug a stuffed animal. Hug your pillow if you have to. Just take care of you and those around you that are in your family or in your household or whatever the best that you can do, because that's all that anybody can ask. And I know all of us are struggling. I know that I'm struggling with my planner, and but I am putting data in as much as I can. My morning pages are, I'm trying to describe the way things are going the best way I can in there, just for reference, because it has helped. And I will hopefully later on this week be showing you guys how I'm trying to keep up with things and doing the best that I can. It was minimal to begin with because I'm more of a minimalistic planner, but there are different things that I'm trying, and it's kind of a perfect time to test something out, because if it sticks right now, it's definitely going to stick later. And that's kind of where I'm at, is just kind of trying different things. So we'll see where that goes. And try to find a connection, and see what happens. And look at those folks around you and make sure that you're connecting with them, because they may not realize that they're distancing themselves too. So just kind of have that in the back of your mind this week, and we'll all get through this one way or another. At least we're all in it together. And I am very thankful for you guys, and I appreciate all of the comments and the reaching out and all of the care and love that's been sent our way, because it has been a crazy weekend, and I appreciate all of that. And hopefully, we can sort of start to find some new routines and things and move forward with all this. So there you have it, my update. And I am going to go text my husband now and find out if he has any more news. So I love you guys, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.